know we were going to get to this point. Hey everyone, Richard Metalfan here, and today we're going to be talking about No Prayer for the Dying by Iron Maiden. Oh boy, where to get to this? Now, let's just go back to like 1988. Iron Maiden were pretty much at the top of their game with their seventh album, Seventh Son of a Seventh Son. And I feel like they had set the bar really, really high with this album. But then we go into 1989, and the band sort of like took that whole year off where Bruce Dickinson had started a little solo career. And also Adrian Smith did a little solo thing as well called Adrian Smith and Project, which is called ASAP. But then then the clock turns into a new decade, the 1990. 1990 is that's pretty much where the ball had dropped for Iron Maiden. For one thing, Adrian Smith had left Iron Maiden, and it was the first time Iron Maiden had a lineup change since probably 1982 or 83, or ever since Nico joined. Their lineup was pretty consistent until then. But Adrian Smith had left Iron Maiden because apparently like disagreements with like Steve Harris with like the direction and the whole thing. And then incoming a new member, Yannick Gers, who actually played on one of Bruce's solo albums, I believe his debut album at the time, which I can't remember what it was called. I think it was Accident at Birth yeah. And then he joined. And then, of course, they actually recorded this studio in, like, I believe a barn or something. Which you could tell that's going to be an interesting one. But then, of course, in September, I believe, of 1990, we were blessed with Iron Maiden's 8th album, No Prayer for the Dying End. I know a lot of Iron Maiden fans are going to be butthurt, and I'm actually a fan of Iron Maiden. I love these guys, and they're my favorite band, but this album isn't really that good. I'm just said it. Like, the production is just, it just sounds very thin sounding. And I feel like they pretty much, like, they were like, what the fuck happened? They went from the almighty Seventh Son of a Seventh Son to this freaking shitload of fuck right here. Like, the production just is bad. It's very thin sounding. Like, if it had, like, the production of Seventh Son, it would have been fine. But I feel like they just stripped everything down. The artwork, it kind of feels like it's going back to like that first album. It still has that Eddie from the first album. But I feel like the vocals, Bruce's vocals, like they were so good on the last album. But with this album, I feel like it's kind of like more of a raspier kind of street style. I will say this. I will give some good things. The musicianship, like instrument wise, it's all right. Like Dave Murray and of course Yannick Gers, his guitar playing is just really great. Like just the solos they come up with are solid, but Yannick's soloing I feel like can be very raw sounding, and compared to Dave's. Steve's is just a monster at bass as always, and the drumming from Nico is just great. That's pretty much the only thing that's pretty much good about this. So yeah, without further ado, let's dive into this motherfuck track by track. Now the album opens up with Tail Gunner, which is an average as Iron Maiden gets. It just feels like a mediocre average version of like Aces High or something. It's just recycling worn out melodies and riffs, and the song's central harmony is nauseatingly happy sounding. It just isn't very much fun to listen to for a trait I don't associate with like any Iron Maiden song. Holy Smoke. I'm not entirely fond of Holy Smoke, though it is got more of a ballroom brawl mentality than many of the band's other songs. And there is still a few worthwhile melodies in there, plus a filthy delivery, very courtesy of Dickinson. But the music video is just, it's just weird. Like, I don't even know what the fuck they were doing. Then we go into the title track, No Prayer for the Dying, which I honestly think is a solid song. Offers some nice lead and riff work from Yannick Gers, and his playing pretty much sets the tone of the song as well as much of the rest of this album. And it also features some nice bass runs from Steve and some pretty over-the-top drumming from Nico. If you have a sense of rhythm, listen, you see what I mean. Public Enema #1 is just decent. There's nothing differing from the album's norms to be seen here. Fate's Warning, which builds up well, but then becomes completely directionless with a nice but totally out-of-place chorus. Then we go into The Assassin, which is an attempt to write a bit more darker, more menacing song, but it feels like a Seventh Son reject. Get the guitars replacing the synth, but just never living up to the greatness of Seventh Son of a Seventh Son. And then Run Silent, Run Deep, Garbage, Hooks in You, which is actually okay song, and it's actually an interesting thing. This is actually has a songwriting credit from former guitar, well, now he's back in Maiden, Adrian Smith, but he left the band at the time, and it's actually a pretty solid song. It's just a good rockin' song. Then we go into Bring Your Daughter to the Slaughter, which actually was a song written for the Nightmare on Elm Street soundtrack. It was actually a song penned for one of Bruce Dickinson's solo albums. Song from one of Bruce's solo albums. But I think Steve Harris heard it and he's like, they wanted to remake it into an Iron Maiden song. I mean, it has kind of like stupid lyrics, but honestly, I take them over the rest of this boring political lyrics on the rest of the album. And this song has an attitude, and I like it. The music is catchy as well, and the song has like pretty much my only favorite guitar solo on the album. Overall, it's just a great, fun song. I heard it once won an award for a war song, and a lot of people dislike it. Like I said, it has stupid lyrics, but it's just a fun song, and it's a good, yeah. And then we close with Mother Russia, which is, I honestly feel like it's another one of the better songs on here. Like, if they were to write songs that are kind of like that with better production, I feel like it would be really great. But Mother Russia, it feels like a miniature version of Seventh Son of a Seventh Song, being primarily instrumental, synth heavy, containing orchestral elements, which I think the orchestral elements would appear on like Brave New World and stuff. And despite being the longest track on the album, it has like the fewest lyrics, only 2 verses in like the whole song. Separating them is a long, complex instrumental section. And the song isn't musically and sharp as contrast to like the rest of the album, but in this case, it's a good thing. I feel like this is like the most original song on the album, and the only one that displays any notable level of creativity. It's quite a shame too. And I feel like Iron Maiden were at the top of the game, but they made a big step in the wrong direction. Despite a few moments of greatness, I feel like this record is just anything more than mediocre, and is pretty much one of Iron Maiden's most weakest albums to date. Like, I don't even know what to say. It's just Iron Maiden we're at the top of the game in the 80s, but then they dropped the ball completely from 1990 up until probably 98 or so. But yeah, so if I were to give this album a score, I'm going to give No Prayer for the Dying by Iron Maiden a 4.5 out of 10. So yeah, that's my review of that, guys. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about it, and I'll see you all in the next video. And as always, keep it metal.